Hello, strangers, and welcome to the Hollywood Rejects Auditorium. I'm Celise, and today's interview is with Emily Mcguiness and Dan Bridges, the creators of the zombie game. If you love zombies, you're going to freak out. If you're over zombies because you think everything is about zombies right now, no, you don't know what's going on. This story is different. This whole concept is different, and it caught my attention, and I am so excited to share it with you. I'll just let you go straight into the interview now. All right, so today's featured artists are Emily Mcguiness and Dan Bridges. They're a duo creating graphic novels, writing horror stories, making zombie art. They even have a companion coloring book, which, in my opinion, creates a viewer experience that is just fun for creatives and fans alike. Emily has a formal art background and Dan has a military background, which seems to come together to become the perfect couple for writing and designing a graphic novel about zombies. Do you guys agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a weird amalgamation, but it definitely has worked.
Yeah, isn't it cool how you can kind of take something that you used to do and turn it into something so new and somehow it works?
Yeah.
So I want to get to a little bit of kind of the fine art portion of what you guys do. And I know that even if you don't have a fine art background, somebody in the art world is still going to find meaning and all of that, right? Whether you like it or not. So we're going to get a little bit into that. And but first, why don't you guys explain a little bit about what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually did go to school for comic books. That is a thing. You can do that. And so we have worked in the entertainment industry for a long time now, and we worked on in television, film, all sorts of projects, but we kept going back to comic books as a medium for artistic expression because it's something that we can complete ourselves. And we've written a bunch of stuff together and separately.
Mostly separately.
But we came back to comic books because we just really wanted to work in an awesome medium that was very visual, where we were able to like complete a whole project. So that was part of how this graphic novel, The Zombie Game, got started, was that Dan had written a film script, but we actually wanted to see it come to life. Like we wanted to like have cool art and like see our characters exist in the real world. So I, having worked in comics, I converted the screenplay into a comic script, and we were off to the races. And because we love art and we love visual art and we love expressing ourselves that way, like you already said, we have a whole bunch of like companion pieces. There's a coloring book that goes with the graphic novel. We've made all sorts of like awesome prints because we're horror lovers as well, and we feel proud that we've created art that deserves to be up on people's walls in addition to the comic book.
Yeah, and I can't draw stick figures. You will be able to see that at the very end of the book. There's some like, I had this idea, and I was like drawing it on a little yellow notepad, and I handed it to her because like there was a panel that I was like, no, I want it more like this, and she looked at me and she was like, what is this? I was like, it's the stick figures. Like you're
I
trying
can't
to
decipher what you're saying.
yeah. And so I can't I've tried to draw, like, remember those old things in like the 90s where it's like, if you can draw this turtle, you can be an artist or whatever.
Oh gosh, I do remember that.
Yeah. And I couldn't draw the turtle. Like I was terrible. There was just something about it, but and because of that inability to do it, it was always something that I was so like transfixed by, that people could just be able to do that. And like, and her book, the companion book, is just adorable in a weird way, the best weird way. And
Odd.
yeah, it's odd, but it's
Love
really
that.
cool. And then once we saw
This is why though we let Dan be the writer, because he let him, right? he was the genesis for all of this, because he has really dove into storytelling and like how you develop characters, and he is so good at writing ensemble pieces that are a perfect fit for like the horror genre. We love all those films, and he writes so well in that way that it was perfect for this book and for the genre in general.
And the way that this because it was a film script, but when she suggested making it into a graphic novel, it just kind of all clicked together really quickly, because it's a game and it's a puzzle and it's chaos. And because like a film script has to be so big, we were thinking about trying to make a short film or whatnot, but this could be done on a contained aspect, and it could be amazing, and it turned out to be better than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
Awesome. So why do you think, being a writer, you can do anything you want. You can completely create your own world, anything you want, no boundaries at all. Why horror? Why zombies?
Well, I think because one, I think zombies are, traditionally speaking, all monsters, or those kinds of monsters, like our traditional Frankenstein and Wolfman and stuff like that. They aren't as scary as they used to be, because we as a people have become much more I don't know, accepting of certain things, and we as humans are much more the evil thing, um, because we are capable of hurting people and doing terrible things. And a monster is just a monster, right? A monster just does it because that's what he does. Tiger doesn't go crazy. A tiger goes tiger. A human is like the person that does the evil things.
Right.
And even a demon's just doing his job, right? Like that's one of the things that I always kind of liked about Super. It's just like the demon's supposed to be bad.
It's just his nature.
Yeah, exactly, right. So I looked at zombies and monsters and things like that, and I kind of felt them to be a little trite, but I still wanted to use the idea of it, of being the mob and the masses, but it wasn't that's how I ended up actually getting into the zombies thing, is that I needed to look at it in a different way. I needed to look at it from not just a plague or a comet or some sort of thing like that. I wanted to make it and look at it through like this game that I created, so that it's really the people that are playing the game and the creators of the game that are the true evil aspect of it, and the zombies are kind of the normal people that are getting destroyed by these people that are pulling the strings. And in this is kind of multi-layered social commentary, and I've that's kind of it was very difficult for me to write in this genre, because this genre is so rich and has so much history, that I didn't want to just write a movie about like another plague and just running around or whatever. And
we wanted to have something to say
about and what kind of zombie or what kind of monster is the best thing to say what I wanted to say. And in that came organically through this.
Like a semi could be almost human, but then when you really pay attention, you find the bad guy.
Yeah. And it's like you think that the answer to it. You think you understand that, like, oh, that's zombies are bad, right? And then like the people that are playing the game are worse, but then it's like there's also whoever put this game together and why and who would do this? Why would people turn people into zombies for their own amusement? It's really kind of looking at it and just as opposed to there was a CDC emergency and now everybody's dying or turning into zombies. And because after a while that becomes the formula, right? At the midpoint you got to figure out, oh, they can't see in the dark, or they can't do this, or you can defeat them this way. It's like, well, I wanted to do something different, and
I think we really love horror that's more grounded in reality. I think that is the scariest part of horror, is that you could imagine this happening to you. Like a slasher could come to your house and attempt to kill you.
Oh yeah, those are the most terrifying for sure.
Yeah, because it's about you as an individual dealing with whatever is happening, and how would you deal with it. And that's what the best of horror does, is it kind of like it hits on that nerve.
It takes personal fears that we all have, but through media and film about horror, we see that they're actually universal fears.
Yeah.
So that personal fear that you have is actually a universal one that connects with other people, which is why those movies do so well.
Right. And I love the idea of being able to sneak in some social commentary without it being heavy-handed. You're still having this amazing experience of your horror fix and what is happening, but then you have the chance to be afraid of a character you didn't think you would be afraid of. Or you guys have really hit the nail on the head with that. As far as all of the research that I've done looking into your work, I was like, that is exciting. I can't wait to see that part.
Thank you.
So I know I make a lot of creepy art, and one of the things that I get a lot is kind of like, ew, why? So what do you guys say to people who have that kind of perspective? It might be your family, it might be like people you've pitched your work to. What do you say to people who just don't understand the horror genre?
I think there is actually something very soothing about horror, that you have taken the time to look your fears right in the eye. That what a lot of people say why they watch like horror movies over and over and over again is because they know the ending, and it is very soothing for them to be in control of this very horrific thing, because they know how it turns out at the end. And I think that a lot of society is based upon avoidance of pain, avoiding us talking to each other, avoiding facing like your own internal reality or the reality around you. And I think horror provides that layer where you can look at those things, you can tell stories, you can look at hard truths in a way that's very digestible and relatable, and it's removed by one because it's happening to somebody else, but hopefully it allows you to reflect on the topics that it covers. And so I didn't actually like horror growing up. I saw The Stuff when I was a kid. It freaked me out. I did not like horror movies until I saw The Ring. And The Ring is not a great movie by any means, but it was like I decoded what was happening. It was a mystery story.
Right.
And something clicked where it wasn't so much scary, but I was like along on this ride, this mystery ride of like what happened to this girl and what's happening with all these people. And it really changed like how I saw horror, that these are awesome stories
And
that
that's where writing comes in as such an important part of the artistic process. It couldn't just be that there's this interesting filter over the whole movie. It couldn't just be that something creepy is on the screen. There had to be some kind of shifting going on. And it's so funny that you brought up that movie, because I was thinking about it earlier when we were talking about oh, I forgot exactly why I thought about it, but I was thinking it was so successful when it came out, I think, because it was so mundane. The imagery was so mundane that it was something that you could relate to. It, like we were talking about, that's what it was. We were saying that you could put yourself in the story. Well, how many times after watching The Ring did you look at an empty chair and just like sit there like, oh damn? Or you pass by a ladder leaning on a building, like a swing swinging in the park. It's the simplest things that you'll always encounter, and they used that to terrify the hell out of you. And I think that that's why it was such a big deal for a lot of people. And of course, there's the fact that you thought the movie was over and then it started all over again. So, so that, I think that movie, even if there's a little bit of cheese to it, there was definitely something very special going on that kind of changed things in the movie world for a while.
Yeah.
So you kind of answered one of my questions already, because you guys are deeper than you probably think you are. I was going to ask you how you feel horror fits into society today. You already answered that pretty much. So I'm going to go to a different question. For Dan, how do you feel that military background has helped you write your story?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this. I was not in Afghanistan or Iraq. I was stationed in Panama, so I don't want to let anybody. I did have some issues when I got out, and about fitting back into society and in that way. And I have a lot of friends that were over there. Most of my friends are vets, and we have such a weird and demented sense of humor, and very dark. And I think that and there's also the aspect of, I really hate watching PTSD stories. Like, it's like that kind of movie again and again. I mean, there's some amazing ones out there, but most of it is just kind of, and it's very dramatic and that kind of thing. So and a friend of mine is he's also an actor, and we were at this writing event, and he goes, why don't you have veteran characters that aren't just being crying in their post toasties or whatever? And it got me thinking, because I love to write veteran characters and the interplay between them. And I looked at it and I went, you know what, why not use that background as a plus, as opposed to always seeing it as a minus? Because we see it in our society, and we have the 22 and these people that are
Oh, you have to explain the
22. The 22 are the 22 soldiers that kill themselves, suicides and stuff like that every day. So it's suicide prevention, and these things. And I wanted to take that trauma, but not just show the trauma, but actually the trauma actually helps them. And so to kind of flip it a little bit, like, it is a PTSD story, because at the end they have all kind of gone through this thing, right? Which no one will ever believe, that they will never be able to talk about. And
right.
And so these people are centralized. They get out of this place, and then they're like, no one's going to believe us. And it's like, yeah, that's the thing. And just now we have to live with it, just like war, just like any other trauma, right? Exactly. So but I wanted to, and so his words are sage because he already understands that. And his ability to react, there's no reflective delay. Like in a lot of things, it's like, this can't be happening. And the veteran, when you're like, if somebody steps up, the veteran already knows that society is a construct. Our society is a construct. And if you go somewhere else, the rules are completely different.
Right.
And physical violence is always can happen. And so we don't have this, the filter is up, but we kind of push it back up when we get back, and like we try to create this wall that normally is around people in our society. It's like clay, right? And we're putting this wall up. But theirs is brick, and the veterans is clay because it can always just fall back down real fast because of what's happening in front of them. And so just to be able to shoot through that wall is, you know, and then deal with the consequences after. And
Right.
that's what that aspect of it is I looked at it as a positive, and I wanted to take a spin on it that is different than what most people, you know, think about it.
Right, right. I completely understand. I completely understand your answer. And then for people who don't have a lot of life experience yet in any way, that's just going to be pivotal for them to have something to think about, you know? So I'm going to go back into the art now.
Mhm.
Emily, since you're on the visual side, what's the favorite thing that you have drawn or designed, or is it a character? Is it a world, a landscape? What is it?
I mean, so quarantine was really, really great for getting to know my dog again. We've had him since he was a puppy, and his name is Leg, which is a military term. For people who do not jump out of airplanes, they're called legs because they have to walk everywhere.
Okay.
So, because we figured Leg would never jump out of a plane, he was aptly named.
It's a derogatory term, usually it goes dirty, nasty leg. And so it's like, you know, and so he was, you know, he was walking around, he's got 4 of them. We thought it was a good idea. Anyway.
He has so many moods that we get to see in quarantine. Sometimes he is quite majestic. And you look at this creature who has unconditional love for you. Well, mostly.
Pending food, yeah.
And it's just fascinating that they have attached to us, and that they are beautifully designed. And that was very inspirational for drawing him over and over and over again in the coloring book. Like, there's also, in addition to kind of like the story element that reflects the graphic novel, I get to do some just fun like pin-up beauty pieces, because there were times where he looks like a spirit animal. Like, and that's, you know, he's majestic and witchy, and, you know, sometimes he feels like a familiar when you're in his best moods, right? When he's not being cranky. So it was that's my favorite recently, is really getting to like look into his big dumb brown eyes and see love reflected back, or who knows, maybe just blank blank
just
amusement.
hunger.
And now he will forever be a character. We'll see if one day in your graphic novel, maybe he'll jump out of a plane.
Oh, we gotta do it now.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, big question for both of you, whoever wants to go first. Have you ever had a very terrifying paranormal experience or encounter?
You're gonna take it?
Sure. So when I was a kid, we went to Salem, Massachusetts. I grew up in in the central part of the state. And we went to Salem on some sort of field trip. And there were a bunch of us. We were running around doing all the tourist things. And we had just come out of like one of the historic homes, and we were going toward the bus stop. And being the weirdo kid I was, of course, I was walking by myself. And all of a sudden, I felt someone touch me on the shoulder. And I turned around and nobody was near me. And I freaked the hell out. I like ran crying to the bus. I was like, what happened? This is insane. And like, of course, like everyone was like, this the weirdo kids like making up stories, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all that happened. I got touched on the shoulder. I hope it was maybe some distant ancestor or something.
Yeah, maybe. That's actually pretty rare to feel something touch you like that. People, you know, I have so many stories of I heard this, I saw this, but feeling something is a whole different level, right?
Yeah.
So my brother passed away in 99 in Tibet in an avalanche, and then 16 and a half years later his body was recovered.
Wow.
And so we ended up some of his friends and with another climber, and we ended up going to Tibet. And so on the journey, because we were going the same way, I kept seeing him. And then when we got to the mountain, he was there. And then he was standing, waving as I left after we did a Buddhist cremation on the mountain. So yeah, that's mine is much more I don't know, it's very familial. But
Definitely
yeah,
not a scary one. That's,
yeah,
oh
it was
gosh, that's moving.
yeah, it's much more yeah, it's not frightening or anything like that. It was very ethereal. But yeah, it was very much, and it was this very interesting like feeling and conversation. So, but yeah, it's kind of awkward, but yeah.
I understand. Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah, sure.
Do you remember what he looked like when you saw him? Was he the age that he was when the last time you saw him, or?
Yeah.
Wow.
He didn't age.
20.
Yeah. He's 29.
Yeah.
Wow. He was 29 in 1999.
Yeah. He'd be 49 now. Yeah. Or is that right?
Math.
Oh yeah, almost 50. Oh my God, he'd be 50.
How did you feel about being able to see him again? Did you expect that? Did you have any kind of feelings the whole way?
I thought that it might happen. But I'm pretty a skeptical person most of the time, you know. I have a friend who loves like he's a big fan of aliens, right? And you know, I get a little, you know, I get a little skeptical, but I was thinking that it might happen, but then it just kind of kept on occasion seeing something, and then it just kind of am I seeing that? Is that happening? Is he up? Is that who is that over there? No one's over there, and you're like, oh. And it kept, and then getting closer and closer and closer. So I think he was just waiting for me.
Kind of guiding you, huh?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a really good story. I went to a funeral a few months ago for a very close family member who passed from COVID. And he was my brother-in-law, and people kind of assume that that means that we weren't that close. But I was 7 when he came into our lives, and he was like an uncle to me, very close. So I saw him over and over again at the funeral.
Yeah.
And if you can imagine a COVID funeral, we're on this big hill and everybody's spread out sporadically. We're all on fire in the heat in California. And I swear I saw him at least 4 times. Every time I looked at a new group of family to see who was here from afar, I saw him, and he was wearing something that I remember him always wearing. So I only told one person about that, and she said, I kept thinking I saw him too. So I believe in something. There's definitely something going on, and that's why I love some of these stories. It's like you love the fear, but you also have to see like the tender side of it, and it's there. There's something there.
Yeah. There's definitely something.
So last question, guys. If you could choose any horror character in any movie you've ever seen, or any kind of entity, shadow man, whatever, who you could make art with, who would it be and what would you make?
Well, that's tough.
I know, and I'm just slamming it on you last minute.
Oh.
I would pick the Coppola version of Dracula, because if we followed the aesthetic of that movie and like what Dracula would be capable of over like hundreds of years of life, of like absorbing culture, I think that would be an amazing collaboration if I did not die in the process.
And I would go with William Friedkin, the director of The Exorcist, which is by far, I think, the scariest movie of all movies. It's just a tour de force in storytelling and the aesthetic and the look. Just yes, that that would be the one. Yeah.
Sounds good. Good reasons too. So tell everyone about your Kickstarter and where they can find information about you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So our Kickstarter for the zombie game graphic novel launches on March 30th.
Woo!
You can go search it on Kickstarter right now. The pre-save campaign is already up. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at The Zombie Game. Tried to make it super simple, so you just search one thing. And you can follow us there on Instagram. And we're going to have all types of rewards for our Kickstarter in addition to the book. So when you go to the pre-save campaign, you can hit that notify me button and you'll be notified as soon as we launch our campaign on the 30th.
Yeah, very, very. And if I can just say that the art in the book, Pablo is a digital painter, and it's not. I tell this story. It's not what I thought it was going to be. We thought it was going to be pencil and black and white and all this, and he came with this aura and this atmosphere that I absolutely was shocked by.
Yeah, you can definitely check out all the art on Instagram. You can see like all the great things that he was able to put forth.
Yeah, and so we kind of made that decision to go in a different direction, and I am so proud of what we've gotten to get to show you guys, because it's absolutely stunning.
Yeah, I agree. The paint, the art style is very dynamic. It makes you feel like it's moving. So
Yeah.
I see what you mean. It definitely has a different approach from what you usually expect from a graphic novel.
Yeah.
You don't lose anything from that. I think it really adds to it. It's a really fun kind of movement. It lends itself to movement. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I just want to thank you guys for jumping on to something that is new and that you don't trust yet, and that maybe I'm wasting half an hour of my life today, but I really appreciate you jumping on and being part of this. And I think that's a really big deal for artists to have innovative vision like that, to say, hey, maybe this could be something cool. Let's do it. So I really appreciate it. I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, we had a great time and we really appreciate the opportunity. It was a great time.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It was really fun.
And thanks for, giving artists a voice. I think it is important in this day and age. Like, one of the things we get to do now is that we can actually reach people. We can reach people like on shows like yours. We can talk about them. We can find like people who like creepy horror stuff just like we do.
Yeah.
So it's so important that we can actually talk to people.
Yeah, who are gonna kind of understand it and
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah.